Welcome back to all our club members, and I am happy to say it's Christmas. It's the end of the year. This is the final episode of our Emperor Champagne Club review, and we've got two really special bottles coming to you this month. Feeling a bit lonely without Megan this month. I'm running it solo. She arrives in Melbourne tomorrow, ready for our end of year Christmas celebrations as we limp towards the finish line, packing all of your Christmas orders, which has been amazing. And our final champagne delivery is already on its way to you, but we've chosen two very special bottles of champagne. Now, one of the benefits of the club is that we're constantly importing and discovering new champagnes, but we're also picking and choosing our very favorite champagnes across the many champagnes that are in this country. This month coming out to all of our lovers is a champagne that you know that I'm very fond of. It's Maison Henriot. The wine that we've chosen is the Blanc de Blanc. And we have something very new and very exciting, I have to say. When I first tried these champagnes, I was very impressed across the whole range. But perhaps my favorite in the range was from Jean Paul Deville, and it is Revelatio. These are two exceptional champagnes. You are going to love them. I've said this before, the best way of experiencing the Emperor Champagne Club is to be at connoisseur level where you get to have both champagnes. Now, our theming, our reason for choice for the champagnes this month is about pairing with your Christmas meal. Now, Henriot Blanc de Blanc is obviously light, fresh, precise, perfect to start the meal. Oysters, prawns, seafood. We are in summer, we are in the Southern Hemisphere, so we do tend to have hot Christmases compared to our friends in France. So something light, something fresh to kick off the meal is perfect. And then I've chosen something that's got 6 years in the cellar, so a lot of oomph, a lot of body, to pair with something a little bit more generous as you move into the mains of your Christmas lunch. Now, both champagnes. Henriot, founded in 1808, but their viticultural practices dating back much further than that. The house was actually founded by and really run by a woman called Apolline Henriot in 1808. She was a widow, and although she wasn't as famous as some of the other widows of Champagne, the great Madame Clicquot, the great Madame Pommery, she really did have an enormous impact on the growth of the Henriot brand, was instrumental in the winery, was instrumental in the growth of the house, one of the great dames of Champagne. And going on several hundred years, the house continues to make really beautiful champagnes. And Brut Souverain, which is their entry level, their Brut NB of the house, I have to say, one of the best value non-vintage champagnes. Honestly, a fantastic champagne, but one of my personal favorites is the Blanc de Blanc. Now, of course, when we're saying Blanc de Blanc, white of whites, it's 100% Chardonnay. You've got 3 years, sometimes a little bit more, aging in the cellar. So you're sitting right on the cusp of Chardonnay when it's bright and fresh and crisp and presenting all that beautiful white flower, white fruit, citrus elements, just turning as Chardonnay does. So Chardonnay, as she ages in the cellar, starts to become rounder, a bit more luscious, where you're getting some more tertiary notes, some brioche notes, some French butter notes, some cream, and some roundness to the wine. So you're in the perfect place of that cusp. 7 grams of dosage, so a little bit on the lighter side, but still not too light. You know, it just gives a little bit more texture and a sort of viscosity to the wine. Now, the other wine coming out to all of our connoisseurs this month, Champagne Jean Paul Deville. This is new to Australia. The house is quite small, but many years of viticultural practices again in the Champagne region. So they were previously growing grapes and selling them to the bigger maisons. This house is located in Verzy, in the Montagne de Reims. Montagne de Reims is focused more on the Pinot Noir grape. The composition of Revelatio is 75% Pinot Noir, the balance being Chardonnay. But what I love about this wine is that you've got 6 years of aging in the cellar and enormous complexity. It's an extra brut, so only 2 grams dosage, just a light addition of 2 grams of sugar, which is absolutely perfect on this wine. You've got 3 generations working side by side, so 3 family members in the maison. You've got Jean Paul himself, his daughter and grandson, who are all working side by side on the family wines. I have to say that I am going to list all of the cuvées on Emperor next year because I was quietly impressed with the entire range. So Principal Wine are bringing this one into Australia, and super impressed. I think you will be too. So something that we'll explore in the new year. My right glass, I have the Henriot Blanc de Blanc. In my left glass, I have Jean Paul de Vie Revelatio. You can almost see from the colour of the wine, it's subtle, but it's a cue as to what the composition of grapes are, the cepage in the wine. You can see that there is just a slight golden green tinge to the Blanc de Blanc. And that's always a good indicator. And when we're tasting, it's very important that you go through that multi-sensory approach to the wine. And, you know, I know wine tasting can be a little bit wanky, and it's up to you about how technical you want to be. And I know some of you love that technical side of the wine, and some of you are really about exploring new champagnes and just getting to taste something new. And champagne is really about pleasure. So it's up to you how deep you want to go in the technical side of the winemaking, or into the techniques of tasting. But eyes, nose, and palate, just a slight green tinge. And I know when I see that green tinge, obviously Chardonnay, white grape, green grape, to be technical, you get that color coming through in the wine. The second observation is the bead. There's a couple of things that affect the bead. Time in the bottle, smaller the bead will become as time progresses, and also the type of glass that you use. I'm noticing, however, that there is a lot more bead on the Revelatio, which is interesting, than there is on the Henriot. Now, nose for me, it really is quite a spectacular wine. So white flowers, citrus notes, but just as I said, turning ever so slightly into those tertiary characters where you do get some cream, some brioche, some buttery notes, showing a bit more time in the cellars and obviously in the bottle. Beautiful acid line, but a real generosity on the palate. So this would be perfect, as I said earlier, with some prawns, as we do in Australia, with some sashimi, some seafood, some oysters. That is definitely the way you want to be starting Christmas lunch this year. Revelatio. I must admit, the first time that I tasted this wine, I tasted it with the importer, Greg, and I had to really think about it. I pondered it. I made a lot of notes, and something that Megan and I and the rest of the team are really conscious of when we talk to you about champagne is not getting too deep in our descriptors with you, because tasting is very personal. The way that we taste is often influenced by our history, by our experiences. Our scent is very closely linked to our memory, and we experience things very differently. So I'm happy to give you a framework, but do that yourself. Take some time, let the wine speak to you. You know that we always pour our champagne into a bigger glass, and you might have noticed that we've actually changed the glasses at Empress, so we've gone to a bigger glass. This is called the Master Class, which is our new glass, which is slightly more generous in the bulb. So never pour beyond that line, just keep it below that line so that the wine's got maximum room to unfold and tell you its story. Slightly deeper color, you've got 75% Pinot Noir, you've got 25% Chardonnay, you've got a much longer time of cellaring, 6 years. Completely different aromatic properties on this wine. Much bolder, much rounder. I love this wine has oodles of power and oodles of length. So the memory of the wine continues. The way the wine feels on the palate is very different, more of a long linear structure on the Henriot Chardonnay, whereas a more mouth-filling, round feeling from the Pinot Noir coming from Verzy on the Revelatio. Really soft acid profile, but what I like is this slightly bitter finish to the wine. It gives this really nice sort of slightly powdery finish. It's got oodles of body. Now, this is a wine that's going to have more versatility, I think, with food pairing. You could actually put this with a turkey. You could actually put this with a ham. It's got more weight and will have more comparability later in the meal. That's why we've chosen these two wines for you. Something that you may have seen before, Henriot Blanc de Blanc, the creme de la creme, I think, of Blanc de Blancs. A new addition to Emperor Jean Paul de Vie. 75% Pinot Noir, 6 years in the cellar, big wine, loads of potential, both spectacular. I hope that you enjoy the club wines this month. Your data card is with you to give you more technical information. Of course, as always, share your thoughts on the Emperor Facebook page, the private group club that we have for you just for Emperor Club members. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the new year because it's going to be my 20-year anniversary of working in Champagne, so a very exciting year for me. But most importantly, we wish you, on behalf of me and everybody from the Emperor team, a safe and happy Christmas and a very festive holiday season. I know many of us are taking a break right now. We're having a couple of weeks off at Emperor, although your orders will keep shipping, so no panic. I hope you've enjoyed all the club wines for this year. I hope you enjoyed the events for this year, and we look forward to 2025 when we've got a whole new container arriving with special clubs brought in just for you.